Hello everyone and welcome to ET News. I am DaJuan Jackson, I go by DJ, and today in the studio we have the youngest elected official of the RCSD Board of Education. He's 19, he graduated in 2022. He graduated from SOTA, School of the Arts, and we're going to be asking him some questions and see how he feels about the RCSD as of now and his new job on the board. Hello, Mr. Isaiah. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you for the invite.
Of course, of course. First I want to ask you, what do you do as the youngest elected official on the board?
Yeah, so school board, you have three main responsibilities. One is budgeting and ensuring that the money that the district spends is going to the right places. Two is policy and public policy for the school district. And three is to supervise the school board, the school superintendent. And essentially those three roles come with a lot of responsibility. And those are really the three main things that school board members do.
Are you being treated differently because you're the youngest on the board, and like how are you being treated differently if you are?
Absolutely. I'm young, I'm 19 years old, so a lot of people believe correlation is causation, so they might think that I do not have the expertise or the understanding to sit on a board with a $1.2 billion budget, and I believe this year alone 170 policies that has passed. So of course I've dealt with that, but what I've just ensured that I do on my own and in my own mind is that I just do the work and allow my work to speak for me. And that's just what I've been doing since 16 years old.
So since you're on the board, what's going on? It's a really big question going on right now. What's going on with the closure of schools? What's going on with teachers? What's going on with students? How are students being split up? Why are schools closing?
Right. So there's a lot that we can go into with this, but the reconfiguration plan essentially, it really attacks three main problems that we have in our district. One of those problems is a lack of teachers. So currently we are understaffed. And what will happen is when closing these schools, we're able to move our resources around to an extent where we do not have our staff so stretched thin in these school buildings.
Right.
But also this allows us to reconfigure the grades where you have middle schools, high schools, and elementary schools in separate buildings. And sometimes this can be positive, seeing that sometimes there's problems between middle school and high schoolers, that could really affect a school climate and a school culture. It also attacks our money to open up and to fix some schools, and the state wrote within the phase 3, I believe, of the modernization plan that in order for us to access the $500 million that's offered, we have to close some schools. So us closing these schools also allows us to modernize some school buildings and to ensure that some school buildings are being kept up in the way that they're supposed to.
So it's basically improving everybody from schools to students, teachers, to make sure everybody's good.
Yeah, and I know that the reconfiguration plan for many has a negative aspect to it. But in my mind, and what I have seen and what I have seen with the plan that is rolling out with the reconfiguration plan, I believe that will solve some issues more than it will create.
So what is your favorite part about being on this, like making these decisions, being on board for these high executive decisions, these important decisions that will change some kids' lives, some teachers' lives? What's your favorite part about doing this?
I'm just glad that a youth voice is there. And I think beforehand, I'm bringing something that has never been there as the youngest in the history, is to be able to bring this young influence to these decisions because it really affects the young people. And we should be at the table. But I also am really grateful for the role that I take as a young person in inspiring and uplifting other young people in my generation and other young people who may be a little younger than me. And truly that is one of the best gifts that I've been given through this journey, is to be able to inspire and uplift other young people to understand that we have a voice. We are the change. And right now our voice is needed more than ever. Our engagement is needed more than ever. And if we can take hold of that and engage and ensure that our voices are at the table, then we can see the changes that we want to see. But sometimes that you just need somebody to encourage you to move to that step. And I'm just glad that I'm able to be that person.
Yeah, I feel like it's really important to include youth representation in a lot of these conversations because we can't make the change without hearing from our young kids, like myself, like my peers, people that's living the day-to-day life of a young kid. You know, we can't have these other people that's older than us that been through different things make change because they not living the day-to-day life we are. But what are some challenges that you had to go through to get to the position you are?
There's a lot. So I started my career in working in community engagement and community activism at 16 years old. And at 16, I started an organization titled We Got This to combat youth gun violence. And then following that, going into my senior year, I created a curriculum called the Mental Health Literacy Curriculum to focus on how to understand mental health, how to understand our emotions. And then, you know, ever since I've been traveling around the state speaking. And of course, in this, there's been a lot of challenges that I've faced, a lot of adversity that I've faced. But what I've learned is to appreciate the adversity, to appreciate the challenge, because sometimes the adversity and the challenge creates you, it builds you, it forms you into the young man, the young woman, the young person that you will be. And if you can come to a point where you can appreciate the challenge and see the value and the challenges that you face, you get to another place in life. And what I've learned is to ensure that I do not allow my circumstance to control my future. And there's a lot of times where I've been in instances before starting these programs or before running for office that I didn't allow stop me. If anything, I allowed it to build and to push the activism that I have, because I'm not the only young person going through a lot of the things that I've been through the last few months. So of course, there's been a lot of challenges, you know, in these past few years, the past few months. But these are challenges that has been able to build me, it's been able to allow me to grow, and they're challenges that I appreciate.
So you speak about starting new things, starting an organization. Can you go into more what the We Got This organization is?
Yeah, so I started that at 16. I wrote a 5-page plan at 16 on how to combat youth gun violence through youth engagement, through passion and talent engagement, through arts engagement. And we were able to engage some real young people inside of the David Gant Center, the rec center in Rochester. And at 16, I was able to mentor peer-to-peer some of my young people. And essentially what happened is we were able to pull them out of drug violence, and we were able to pull some people out of gang affiliation. So it was a program that I started back at 16, just sent a proposal to the mayor, and essentially got a room in the David Gant Center, which is a rec center around the North Street area. And we did recording studio stuff. So I brought them in a recording studio, they did rapping, they did singing, and then we started performing. And what happened is, what these young people started to realize is that this was so much deeper to them than the negative that they were getting into. And I made sure that they were busy. You know, we had performances all throughout the week. You know, we had to record. But essentially at the end, they figured out that there's a better avenue to life where they can express themselves just through their talent. And I think that right now, even as I prepare to sit on the school board, this is something that I'm bringing with me. You know, a knowledge that I'm bringing with me is that through talent, through passion, through extracurricular opportunities, and through also correct mentorship and teaching on social emotional intelligence and teaching on mental health tips and tools is an effective way to truly get a solution out of our young people. I think a lot of times as we look at some of our measures, with suspensions and with, the different levels of disciplinary actions that we have, I think sometimes we just need to get to the real solution. And we need to sit down with these young people and de-escalate. We have to sit down with these young people and focus on restorative practices, emotional intelligence, and mental health intelligence. And this is something that has helped me as I've tried to help young people get on a better avenue of life. I believe that this is something that will help everyone if we are able to correctly teach our young people the correct solutions towards this situation or that situation.
So you speak on mental health intelligence. How do you feel like, or what do you feel like the most important steps are to help a young person's mental health or help them improve their mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what it really takes is just to understand that the emotions you go through, the trials that you go through are normal. And you are not by yourself. I think a lot of young people feel like they're alone in this battle. But it's important to understand that these emotions that we face are normal. It's just our reaction to these emotions that we can become problematic. And what I have learned and what I've had to do personally is go through and figure out, when I'm feeling this emotion, how do I deal with this emotion correctly? I think that it takes some self-awareness, so being able to be self-aware and understanding, like, when this happens, I feel this way. This is a way that I should respond to it instead of this way. And that's, of course, if you're going down a negative path when you're upset or when you're sad or when you're depressed. But it's also important that young people understand that they're not alone, and it's not easy, just to say that. But sometimes people feel alone, when it comes to these emotions and when it comes to these mental health problems, So being able to be self-aware and to find the true solution within yourself and how you work, and understand that these emotions are normal. We just have to find the right ways to deal with them.
So I want to know, our last question, I want to know, what is one of the goals or your biggest goal that you want to accomplish sitting on the board right now?
Yeah, so there's a lot, and there's a lot to focus on. But my plan as I prepare to join the board is to really focus on those solutions that you and I were just talking about.
Yeah.
Restorative practices, de-escalation measures, and teaching young people how to de-escalate situations. Social emotional learning, social emotional and emotional intelligence, mental health tips and tools.
Right.
I also want to focus on bringing trade back into our high schools and the education of trade into our middle schools. So these are some of the things that are my priorities. But most of all, I plan to join the board, with a raw, authentic understanding of what's going on in our district, seeing that I just graduated last year, and the changes that we need to make happen in order to change these things, to give equitable education to our young people.
Yeah, your voice is really important. You're like the bridge that stems, from the board to us, since you're like just fresh out of high school, fresh out of RCSD itself. So I just want to say thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate your input, of course, as always. And yes, thank you everybody for watching. This is Edison News. I am DaJuan. Thank you.